All right. This is going to be exciting. Very exciting. Here it is connecting. You're about to hear an echo for a second. That's how you know it works. YouTube, you're way better than Facebook, man. Way better. And then I'll share this on Facebook. See how I do that? And this is Science of Spiritual Growth. I should be playing music for you guys so you'd be more entertained. Thumbnail. 88. And okay. Communication with your body. And then let's edit this. Zoom.us/J/ Art of Living. Good to see you. We're about to start Science of Spiritual Growth, communicating with your body. This is going to be mind-blowing. Good. http:// I think there's an S here, HTTPS. Okay. We're about to get started here in 60 seconds. Dilrod, good to see you. How about that podcast yesterday, Dilrod? Oh, the file is too large. Are you kidding? Well, I'm not going to fix that right now. So, okay, here we go. Back to my Zoom call. Here we are. Zooming it up. All right, we're going to record here. It was good. Glad I caught it. Yes. Record to the cloud. 3, 2. Welcome to this episode of Science of Spiritual Growth. I'm Yogi Chris, aka Chris DeVilbiss, founder of Ninth Limb Yoga. I also have a PhD. Sometimes I say that on the end of my name. I am a living entity, and this is a podcast about communication and spiritual growth, your mind, personal development, but really communication and imagination. And of course, yoga and yoga postures are going to relate in with this. But what I want to talk about today is communicating with your body. And if you're catching this on iTunes or YouTube later, definitely leave a comment, like it, subscribe, leave a review, all that good stuff. This is going to be a really powerful episode. So yoga postures is a really excellent method, and really life, it just trains you for life. Life is a good method for learning to master your own mind. You're always talking to yourself. You're narrating life to yourself. And your body is responding to that narration because that's what happens. Like when you're asleep, you keep responding to it. But you're sleepwalking. You don't stop dreaming just because you're awake. You just stop noticing so much because you have so many other sensory inputs when you open your eyes and you open your ears and you wake up. And the dream doesn't stop. And your body is still responding to the dream, your dream world. And it's not just when you wake up and the dream fades away. Just throughout your day, your life is a dream. And you are responding to it. Or reacting to it. Your body is reacting to it. And it's affecting your mood and your emotions more than you know. And yoga systems, now there are probably other systems that do something similar, but I know yoga. I know what I do. I was just working some Robert Bustani, who's a senior yogi, 71-year-old guy who lives in Houston, working some of his systems, muscle activations, ways to stop the mind so that life is simpler to handle. Emotional reactions are more, you have more control there. Relationships, you communicate better. You're calmer, you're less in pain. And there is definitely pain in so many people's bodies that they're not acknowledging because they've given up on it. So they just let it happen. And 10 years later, they forget that it's really happening and they've become accustomed to it. And if you get them, which is a challenge, it's a big if you get them talking about that thing, you'll hear the quality of their mind on that thing. Get the person to talk about how they broke their arm 10 years ago, and you'll hear what they have spoken into their arm. right? Your body doesn't ever stop responding or reacting to what you're telling it, what you're saying in general, just what you're narrating. Because the body can't even tell really that you're not talking to it. You can talk to the body. I give lots of techniques for that in the Silent Flute, my online training program. You can talk directly to the body with language directed to the body, and the body picks it up in a certain way because of neurolinguistics. You are a human, which is very, very capable of processing language. And where do you process it? In your nervous system. Where does your nervous system go? Your body. So you process your language in your body. And there is language that can direct your attention precisely on parts of the body. But the body is always responding, no matter if you're talking directly to it or just narrating something unrelated to the body. It's still responding to what you're saying to yourself or reacting to it. I keep saying responding. I mean to say react, because it's not conscious of it. It's not like choosing a response. It's, and that's influencing your life, how you make your money, your entrepreneurship, your relationships, your communication. All it boils down to your communication. That's the ninth limb of yoga. And this podcast is about communication. This episode is about communication. So the ninth limb of yoga, communicate the yoga experience. Yoga is the stopping of the systems of your mind, but your body is part of your mind. It doesn't mean stop your body from moving like that, because then you wouldn't be able to live. It means stop the agitation, stop the turbulence, the deviations, the distractions, the counterproductive, the destructive movements, the unconscious movements of your body that are not contributing to what you're here to do. And what you're here to do is test your power. And anyway, I go more into the spiritual belief systems in the Silent Flute. This is about communicating with the body, with your body. So you're always talking to yourself. Your body's always reacting to what you're saying to yourself. And if you got someone talking about their injury or a condition they had a long time ago, what you would hear is the quality of their mind that their body has been reacting to the whole time. And that story has never left, because if you ask them about it and you get them to open up about it, you'll hear the story. Where did it come from? Did they pull it out of the ether, or was it stored in their mind somewhere? They've been carrying that baggage. They've been carrying that. And if you carry a bag, it's going to affect your posture. Good analogy. Wasn't that a good analogy? If you carry a heavy bag, it's going to affect your posture. You slouch, you lean. And if you got mental baggage, it's going to affect your posture. It's a heavy thought. I've heard there is no separation between the world in our mind / the real world. No separation between the real world and the world in your mind? I mean, even just, I don't know what to say. It sounds like even just saying that acknowledges there's a separation. Because saying that I've heard there's no separation means you've also heard that there is a separation. And by definition, if those aren't the same, because one is saying there is and one is saying there isn't. So there's this. There's definitely the world without. Anyway, when you communicate with your body's reacting to everything you're saying, the story that you're saying to yourself. It's affecting how you breathe. It's affecting your posture, and it's affecting your communication. It's affecting your emotions. So what are you going to do about it? Well, learning some positive internal dialogue, some positive affirmations, positive things you can say to yourself, not deleterious. Notice when you're saying negative things to yourself. Focus on positive. And when you're going through something, emotional distress, physical distress, I was just doing my yoga. It was quite intense. The sensations is very deep. I was sitting in a plane all day, so my posture was tight on one side of my body. I was trying to open that up, and so the sensations were pretty thorough. Especially, let's say, if you know how to, let's say you do a lunge or something and you feel the stretch in the front of your hip. Well, what if you could add to it like some back bend and you feel it like in your belly? And then if you turn your arms a certain way, you could feel it in your chest. And if you do the whole posture a certain way, you could feel it in your quads, your lower legs, your shin, front of your shins. What if you could coordinate all of those movements at the same time and you feel the sensation, the whole front body, all at once. It's very intense. Intense. Now, in these moments, that's where self-talk is very effective. How you talk with yourself, how you talk to your body. It's a very obvious experience when your body relaxes into it, or when you can actually affect the tension in your body or influence your breathing by just saying something different to yourself. A lot of times the story inside is just a picture book. I should say that. It's not always, I've said it was a narration earlier. It is, and on a deep level, it's all going to come down to words. I mean, deep symbols. But it's a lot of times it's a picture. It's a moving picture. And you don't realize that it's a moving picture until you snap out of it. And then you're like, I was replaying a scene in my head. This happens a lot to me in relationships. I don't want to say I've mastered yoga, but it's like, it's an easy thing for me. Like, it seems like, until I meet somebody that's so much better. When I'm doing yoga postures, yoga breathing, both of which I make intense experiences. I like the intensity. I also like the efficiency of being intense. Is that wordplay a caveat thing, intense? It's a messenger's keys to the matrix. And that word, though, I discovered a long time ago. There's many words I discovered. Keys to the matrix, like, tripled my vocabulary for that stuff. It's also not play. It's word magic. I'm playing with it, I guess. So that's fun. I'll get to your question in a second. We'll go a little bit longer. So when, I like the intensity of deep breaths. I like the intensity of stretching my lungs, of holding my breath for some time, of stretching many different parts of my body in coordination. And I don't know if it's from like a wrestling background or, athletics, the intensity of what I was doing, and then having a coach like yell things at me, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. But I like in that moment, or I seem to be very capable of, in the intensity, listening to what I'm saying to myself. For some reason, it comes very easy to me that in the intensity, or the intensity of, like, let's say, concentrating on a balance. Let's say I'm standing on one foot and holding my other foot. And so it's a challenging balance. I hear very loudly and I see very clearly what I'm saying to myself. And it's not always good, but it's very good that it's loud enough that I hear, because I think a lot of people are not clearly hearing it. It's just noise on the inside. It's just turbulence. They haven't distilled it down to like the words that they're saying to themselves. But sometimes it's just a movie. It's a feeling. It's energy inside, and it's moving around, or it's being blocked. There's a tension, there's some relaxation somewhere else. You're not always seeing the words, but in the moment, when you catch that there is, when you're not feeling tip top, when it's not like all is perfect, and you choose some words to say to yourself, kind words. If you talk to yourself kindly, talk to your body kindly in the intensity of a yoga pose or the intensity of a breath hold, and watch as your body experience changes. How your body experience is so rapidly reacting to your mind. And in the silent flute, I teach you many different ways to train your mind to acknowledge and notice when is an emotion happening. And I feed you a lot of dialogue, a lot of personal dialogue of things that I would say to myself. What are really useful are having ways to talk to your body when there's pain. Let's say I do this one shoulder movement that I go pretty far back with my arms behind my ears. Sometimes you feel it in the front of the shoulder. Now, there's proper muscle engagement that can help you to rotate the arm externally in a way that you don't get shoulder impingement. And that's really nice, because the shoulder impingement, the pose that I do this movement with, it's a glorious pose. It feels fantastic, but it really takes away from the overall positive effect and the positive experience of it if my shoulder's hurting while I'm doing it, or if my shoulder hurts after doing it. Then do I want to do it a second time, or do I want to do it the next time? So how do I get this thing? Because when the position itself, it's very difficult to get that external rotation. So what I do is I talk to my muscles, I talk to my bones, and directly. It takes a concentration and a vocabulary and some sound bites and some practice. And this is what I give. I give the technology of how to talk to the joint in a way that wakes up the muscle, coaxes it into doing what you want it to do. And a lot of times it happens that I don't know what I want the pain to do. I just have pain somewhere in my body, a joint, a tension, or whatever. You know, if I went and did some jujitsu, I'd come back and I have pain points because things would move around. And to be able to talk to your pain points, a lot of times the tissues turn on, the muscles turn on, the bones slide back into place on their own accord, just through the communication that you give to it. And communicating with the body, it's very essential. And learning how the body's reacting to all of your communications is very essential to yoga and personal development. This is your power. If you knew that your body was always reacting to what you're saying, it seems like it should be, when you feel the intensity, when you feel the magnitude of how much your body is literally just reacting to your deeper sentences, your shallower sentences, your surface conversation sentences, everything, all of your words, you would probably, like me, make it more of a priority to get this thing right. Get your mind right and get your body right. There's so much peace and tranquility, and it makes you such a better, I don't want to say better in the sense of like ethically. I think it does lead to that because pain will warp your beliefs and warp your perception. So how can you have the most true ideas about the reality if you're in pain? It distorts things. But what I mean to say is you're a better problem solver. You have a faster reaction time, less, you need less of a buffer between other people's baggage. When they come to you with their problems and you have calm, tranquility, and peace of mind and peace of body, you have a deeper reservoir with which to engage with the world, and a deeper heart, you could say, and a deeper solar plex, everything, deeper energy. You're deeper. So you're a deeper vessel. And that's what I think the world needs. We all have our own purposes that we're here to manifest. And I don't know how to help you on all of those. Those are yours to figure out, but I can help you become a deeper cup for yourself. And that's what I do in the silent flute. So that's the end of the podcast. If you got any questions, we got one here. So I'll give you a second to, I'll read this one and handle. I don't even know if it's a question. Maybe it's a comment. Okay. From Soul Grown. Really cool name, by the way, to be named Soul, even though I think it's pronounced Sal. What's the deal with increasing rates of specific cancers and tumors of the head and neck? I don't know. Is that true? First thing I would say, is that true? Because what's the deal with it presupposes that it's true. I don't know if it's true. When you say rate is a fraction. It's a percentage of something. So we have more occurrences because we got more people, possibly. That makes sense that it would. I don't know if we have a more rate. Let's just say that there was a higher rate, because how many cancers and tumors of the head were diagnosed 500 years ago? What are they going to diagnose it with? So how do we really know that there's a higher rate? So I don't know if there, I'm not even going to say a higher rate. Let's just say, what's the deal with tumors of the head, and not worry about if it's more or less. Just why people get tumors in the head. I don't know. I question this sometimes. I thought I knew. I've heard things. The correlation of how they're created. Correlation of how what's created. How specific cancers and tumors of the head and neck, and then correlation with what? What does that correlate with? How do tumors of the head and neck correlate with what? And okay. So nutrition, I think, your body is only made of what you eat and what you drink and what you breathe and how you breathe it, how you combust all that stuff together in your metabolism. And that internal combustion process is related to your dialogue with the world and with yourself. Because you change that, if you said a certain sentence to yourself or a certain image to yourself, you could really panic yourself out, and that would affect your digestion. And if you really calmed yourself out, that would affect your digestion too. And it'll affect your whole thing, your whole chemistry, and then accumulate that over 20, 30, 40 years. And that's where you get tumors from. Katrina, how can you identify if you are hurting your body if you don't feel pain? For example, if you get an injury, but it doesn't hurt, how can you tell that you got hurt? Well, how do you know you're injured? I mean, so if, I don't know, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, I don't care because it's not in my, I don't hear it. So if I got injured, but I don't feel it, I mean, how do I know I'm injured? If the muscle is, let's say, popping out and I'm like, that looks funny, but I don't feel it, it doesn't hurt. It's an aesthetic thing. And maybe, you know, I can play with it and try to move it around, see, you know, whatever. I don't know that that's really ever happened to me that I've been injured. Sometimes in the adrenaline and the intensity of something, you feel like something pops or whatever, and then later it starts hurting. But in the moment it didn't hurt. And if that's happening, then how can you identify if you're hurting your body? Well, that's like saying, how can I identify when I'm hurting someone else's emotions when I'm talking to them? You just got to pay attention to them. And you got to pay attention to your body when you're doing things. It's the same thing. So when you're talking with somebody, you know, when you're saying, you're making a point, have you ever caught yourself like trying so hard to make a point and you notice that the other person's bothered by what you're saying? And it maybe sometimes it even softens you up, like, oh, maybe I'm trying too hard to push this idea. I'm not caring enough about the other person. That's what you're doing with your body. So that's how you do it. It's communication with the body. This is a good episode. I should charge you guys. You freeloaders, go over to ninthlimb.com, sign up for my training program. Dilrod, I have a friend who's a few months older than me, not even 21 yet. Oh yeah, you're 20, man. Who has a brain tumor, completely lost his sense of smell. Wow. Maybe from brain pressure, possibly. Now that he's getting treatment, his smell is returning. Good. Wow. Yeah, man. That is something at 20. Soul Grown. Thank you, Chris. I'll be researching even more now. Researching what, brother? What are you researching? What are you researching? Research, man. What are you researching? Science is weird, Dilrod. Fascinating phrase. Science is weird. People need to start looking at how they're defining words. This is very difficult to communicate in my new relationships. Because at least in my older relationship, I had 3 years and a quarter to come to common definitions with the person. So communication became very efficient relative to the normies of the world, relative to with the normies of the world. You know, there became a common dictionary that we could all, that her and I could work with. So now I'm coming to new common dictionaries with new people. And one of the things I love about putting this information out, and why I think it would be great for you to put information out, is so that you and your tribe of people and everyone you interact with can come to some common definitions, and your communication improves. So that's what I'll say about that. So that's it for this episode. Subscribe, leave reviews, go over to ninthlimb.com. That's the number 9, THLIMB. And I'll see you in the next episode. Namaste.